constructed.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm happy to rise here today to speak to Bill C-69, one of the most important attempts to modernize our environmental protection laws in Canada. And I think in large part it was meant to deal with some of the actions of the previous Conservative government who gutted a lot of our environmental protection laws in the previous Parliament through changes to the Navigable Waters Protection Act, the Fisheries Act, etc. We've dealt with fisheries in C-68, but this is an answer to try to fix some of those other acts that were radically changed by the previous Conservative government. But I have to say off the top how disappointed I am that the government not only brought in this bill as an omnibus bill, it's a huge bill, well over 300 pages long, but certainly in the first debate they moved time allocation after only 2 hours. They moved time allocation on this yesterday as well. And you know, this is a bill that really should get fulsome debate, and I'm disappointed that they've not only moved time allocation, but they took so long to bring this in. The NDP originally asked the Speaker to rule this as an omnibus bill so we could deal with it separately. He agreed that we could vote on the Navigable Waters section separately, but we also asked that it be split up for a committee study. The first section on the impact assessment is ideally suited for study by the Environment Committee. The central part that deals with the National Energy Board, the Canadian Energy Regulator, belongs with Natural Resources, and the Navigation Protection section obviously should have gone to the Transport Committee. And that division of labour would have provided for a thorough and efficient study. Instead, the whole bill was thrust onto the Environment Committee, where with impossible deadlines, many important witnesses couldn't testify. I was contacted early on by a consortium, if you want, of Canadian scientists who they had studied this and wanted to present evidence before the committee. This wasn't a single scientist. This was, you know, all the a lot of the important environmental scientists of Canada. They were denied that access to the committee simply because, I imagine, there were too many witnesses trying to testify before the committee in those tight timelines. At committee, the NDP submitted over 100 amendments, none of which were accepted. But tellingly, the government submitted over 100 amendments of their own, and that tells me that this legislation clearly was rushed into this House and should have been written with more care. The Liberals are hashtagging this bill Better Rules, but the Canadian Environmental Law Association, the legal experts who arguably know more about this subject than most Canadians and most politicians, have said that this legislation is neither better nor rules. And I'll quote from a briefing note that Richard Lindgren of the Canadian Environmental Law Association prepared. And this is what he said. IAA, the Impact Assessment Act, is not demonstrably better than SIA 2012. To the contrary, the IAA replicates many of the same significant flaws and weaknesses found in the widely discredited SIA 2012. He goes on to say that, and I quote, "The IAA does not establish a concise rules-based regime that provides clarity, consistency, and accountability during the information gathering and decision-making process established under the Act. Instead, the key stages of the proposed impact assessment process are subject to considerable, if not excessive, discretion enjoyed by various decision-makers under the IAA. And at the most, and this I'm still quoting, at the most fundamental level, for example, it currently remains unclear which projects will actually be subject to the IAA. Contains no benchmarks or criteria to provide direction on the type, scale, or potential effects of projects that should be designated under the new law." End quote. Now, I'd like to spend a little while speaking more on the second part of the bill, the Energy Regulator section. This section disbands the National Energy Board and creates a new but rather similar body called the Canada Energy Regulator. The section opens with a preamble and a statement of purpose. Surprisingly, in this day and age of a brave new world of energy, neither makes reference to linkages between energy and climate. In fact, there's no mention at all of climate in this entire section. Much of the public work of the old NEB was with regulating pipelines, and one could easily come to the conclusion that this is a case of closing the barn door after the horses have left, since it seems unlikely that the new regulator will ever have to review an application for a major new oil pipeline. The Minister of Natural Resources has risen countless times in this place, declaring that the government had restored confidence in the energy regulation system, and that is why the Kinder Morgan pipeline can be built. And unfortunately, he's deeply misinformed. A couple of months ago, I met with Dr. Monica Gattinger of the Positive Energy Group at the University of Ottawa, who studies this very issue of public confidence in energy issues, and Nick Nanos, whose polling firm had asked Canadians about that confidence. Perhaps not surprisingly, Mr. Nanos found that the public confidence in Canadian energy regulation system was at an all-time low. If you thought it was low during the Harper government, it has continued to decline, and now only 2% of Canadians have strong confidence in the energy regulation system. That lack of confidence is shared by members of the public on both sides of the issues. It's lowest in both Alberta and British Columbia, and it results in situations like the Kinder Morgan impasse. And I should mention that the last time I heard the minister speak on this subject, he did admit that confidence was suddenly a problem in this area. The Liberals promised during the last election to put the Kinder Morgan proposal through a new, stronger review system, but instead sent a 3-member ministerial panel on a quick tour along the pipeline route, giving communities, First Nations governments, and the concerned public almost no advance warning to prepare their presentations. No record was made of the proceedings. And despite the serious shortcomings with this process, the panel came up with 6 questions it said the government would have to answer before making its decision about Kinder Morgan. And I'll only mention the first 3. First, can the construction of the Trans Mountain expansion be reconciled with Canada's climate commitments? Second, how can pipeline projects be properly assessed in the absence of a comprehensive national energy strategy? And third, how can the review of this pipeline project be squared with the government's commitment to the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People? And I would suggest that none of these questions were answered, even in part, before the government made its decision to approve the Kinder Morgan expansion, and none of them were answered before the government bought the pipeline, actually the old pipeline. That action leaves a lot of questions about how the government is to regulate itself in getting that pipeline built. And amazingly, none of those questions are properly answered in this legislation, which comes 2 years after the Kinder Morgan decision. And after the government has accepted Bill C-262, which calls on the government legislation to be consistent with the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, there is no mention of this in the body of C-69. And only after much pressure did the government agree to put it in the preamble where it has no legal effect. Mr. Speaker, we need to restore the confidence of Canadians in our energy regulatory system and in our environmental impact processes. Without that confidence, it will be increasingly difficult for Canadian companies to develop our natural resources that are at the heart of our national economy. The Liberals continue to pretend that they're doing good, but they are all talk and no action. Or as we say in the West, all hat and no cattle. We need bold action to build a new regulatory system that gives voice to all concerned Canadians. Thank you.